Hey everyone, welcome to August 2024. If you're new to my channel, I call myself the Esoteric Practitioner. My name is Natalie, and I am a clear conduit medium. I also have a spiritual holistic practice where I dabble in other practices, mystical arts such as energy work that's rooted in Reiki, but it has an infusion of hypnosis and guided meditation along with my channel. And not my YouTube channel, but my channel with the spirit world. And then also I do, educate individuals on how to get to their highest self, utilizing astrology and all of that. So if you're new to me, you can head to my website at sacredpathtransitions.com, or just continue to follow me here on YouTube as well. But I do one-on-one sessions. But today I am giving you an overview of August energy, as I've done in the past with other horoscopes type of thing, where I've channeled information so that you can get some insight into navigating the mental and emotional, spiritual, and perhaps even how it impacts your physical well-being. And so I hope this resonates with you. And if it doesn't, feel free to leave it there. Otherwise, share and like. So let's get into it. So today you actually might notice that I'm going to be reading quite a bit, and the reason why is because I actually had to really ground and center myself because the energy of this month was very kind of like, let's go. And so it doesn't, like I like to tell people, I'm not political, but I definitely know that the collective of at least the United States consciousness is very much like, let's go. So what doesn't matter, what I like to do is kind of take out the faces, take out the names, take out the labels, and kind of get down to simplistic understanding of how to navigate your own free will choice. So I'm not going to, if you're sticking with me to say like who's going to win or who's going to win the presidential thing, that's not what I do. I empower you individually to kind of understand what's going on internally, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, how it all impacts your physical, and even how your physical might even be responding. And so you can learn yourself and have an empowered way of making a free will choice. Okay, so that's why I'm going to be looking at this paper, because I'm going to be reading it because it felt very important to go down. So, one thing that when you're living in Arizona, one of the phrases is bear down, right? And that's because of a local college, university. And that was really the phrasing for this month. Which was funny because, I don't really hear it that often because I'm not really into the, scene, even though that's where I graduated from. But I don't really utilize it in my own vocabulary or in my own way of speaking. But one thing that was very prevalent, I channeled a couple of times to see was this consistent. And the main phrasing was bear down. Now, yesterday it was a little different. I'm going to move something so I could see what it was yesterday. But yesterday was, are you ready to bear down? And then today was bear down, mother. And that was kind of probably my own essence of Leo inside of me that was wanting to get a little bit spicy and get excited and be like, bear down. Like, when you're at a game and you're like, come on, like you get, riled up. But that was the phrasing, is bear down. Now, something that I do talk about with my clients is you want to learn what you are at a neutral standpoint, not when you're holding in emotions like failure, like the feeling of failure, or emotions like excitement, joy. You don't want to feel anything as far as, fearful or betrayal or any of those emotions when you're coming to a place to make a decision, when you have to utilize your free will choice type of thing. You don't want to ever have a choice made out of emotion. That's easier said than done. Again, I like to say I'm human. Yes, I do have a very tight-knit relationship with the divine, with the higher realms, so I'm able to channel insight. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm perfect in this human experience. In fact, I'm quite flawed. And so that's something that we all have to start coming to and understanding, that to not necessarily follow false prophets, if you will, and to learn your own intuition, learn your own divine connection, so that you can recognize perhaps, how you're being persuaded and does it feel right to you. So that's something that I really like to make sure that I empower and instill in my clients and my students and my community type of thing, is like, don't look at me. I am just here to give you information, give you facts, if you will, that I'm getting. And then you get to decide how you want to navigate this human experience. So, one thing that came through was, have you been one that either runs from facing yourself, or the opposite, by constantly wanting to alchemize or wanting to heal those wounds so you can get past discomfort? So I want you to sit with that, like decide like which one are you? You could be both, depending on the situation, depending on the circumstance, the event, the conversations. Like sometimes you might be running from things, and sometimes you might be, okay, I know what to do. I have tools in my tool chest, so I'm just gonna breathe through this, get that good prana in, and I'm gonna do that. But I want you to consider something, okay? I want you to get your critical thinking cap on and really just sit with these two concepts, or these two ideas, right? So number one, something to think about the other side is, what do either side have in common? Okay, what do either side have in common? Either side of the one that's running, and then the one that's trying to speed through this type of thing. Like, okay, let's get through this. Like, I got my tools. I know how to do this, right? Right? So what do either side have in common? Well, one can argue the simplistic, which is that running is avoidance. Okay, we're avoiding things. We're turning we're turning around and going the opposite direction, so we don't have to face these situations, these circumstances, these thoughts, these feelings within us. While the other might be facing things, okay? But it can be argued that one is turning and the other is bulldozing through things, educating ourselves on healing and trying to breathe into it, onto the wound as fast as it can to avoid the discomfort. I wrote a blog on what is it called? Oh my gosh, it's like, why is it escaping me right now? The energy vampire, and how we're all doing it. This has been a common theme in this week with my clients, and even conversations with other people, is that we are actually all using each other. One thing that came up with a client today was they were talking about a relationship, and they were wondering what's going to happen, so on and so forth. And what came through for them was to recognize that we're all using each other. We meet with people, and we're gaining insight about ourselves, and so whether or not we're doing it from a we got to look at our intention, if you will. So this person in particular was kind of like, well, how am I using them? Well, because whether you're aware of it or not, you're gaining information about yourself. And then divine timing sometimes says, okay, your time is up with each other, and then, or the learning is done in a sense. And sometimes, and I shouldn't even say it's done, because we can continue that learning, but sometimes it does close out, and then we make a choice of how we're going to exit. But God uses us as well. It uses our intelligence, it uses our experience, because it's wanting to evolve itself. And so when we attach drama to it, when we attach negativity to it, then we become a little, into that anger as like, well, they're just using me and they've used me. And it's like, no, quite honestly, like, we're all using each other for some reason. And it's all about the intention. Are you putting love behind it, or are you doing it to be greedy? Are you doing it to just be selfish about it? Or is it going to help others? Do you help others? So it all, and every situation is different. It's not black and white, right? So one could be, so it says, what did I write? Again, going back, because I kind of derailed a little bit, but it can be argued that one is bulldozing through educating self on healing and trying to breathe air onto it to also avoid. So avoiding that feeling. I don't even know why I derailed so much, but the vision that came to me, so that's the thing, is that a lot of people are trying to hurry to get to the next phase so that they don't feel that the discomfort, and they want to get to their outcome. So I'm going to put a pause on that one, because I want to mention the vision that I had, which was a lot of people that are on the healing journey, that's awesome. It's beautiful that you are taking a look at how you are contributing to the world. And I ask you to ask yourself, are you, like, let's say if we have a wound on our body, and if you rip the Band-Aid off to look at it, like, oh shit, I'm dealing with abandonment issues. Oh, sorry, I cussed right now, so sorry children if you guys are hearing that. But like, oh dang, am I looking at like, what discomfort am I looking at? What emotion am I looking at? Am I looking at that I can be vindictive or controlling or whatever it is? Can we look at that, and how fast do we do it? Like, okay, oh my God, okay, I'm looking at abandonment issues. Okay, like trying to breathe all this air into it to speed up the healing. So we go in and we dive in deep and hardcore, and we're not actually gaining a lot other than we're putting in the practice, we're putting in the work, but are you actually applying what you're learning into real, true enlightenment or insightfulness type of thing, or are you just kind of bulldozing through it? So that's just something to consider, right? And so that's kind of what came to me. And so when we're wanting to get to that outcome, right? So the person that's walking away is wanting to get to a different outcome, but they don't want to face things, but they're still going to get to their happy place, right? Because they're not going to look at anything that impacts them. Whereas the other person is bulldozing through things to get to another outcome. What is actually happening in that moment, what is happening is people are acting from a state of their own will versus thy will. So that takes me to a blog also that I wrote about the modern day Our Father, and I talked about it. And what you want to get into is understanding, are you in alignment with your own will out of ego, or are you in alignment with divine will and allowing yourself to just go into the state of trust, of knowing, okay, I'm making these choices, I'm making these decisions. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable because there's going to be growth in it, there's going to be consequences, there's going to be something out of it, but I hope I'm making the right choice. I mean, what I encourage my clients to understand is that either choice you're making, you're going to learn no matter what. And you've got to put trust and faith that you can learn discernment through this practice, learn discernment. That you will learn discernment the more and more you allow yourself to feel these energies, to feel this information that you're coming up to, so that you can truly educate yourself. So when you're up against it again, you understand this, you know what this is, right? So then you can face it differently. So then, it comes to like a divine timing, and it comes to divine will. And so ask yourself, am I doing all of this for my own and this is kind of, complex, right? It's the complexities of all of this, but, you've got to understand, like, are you in alignment with divine will or your own will, and you're not trusting in the process, okay? So keep that in mind, into consideration, and as you go on, or as you continue on your spiritual enrichment, your spiritual enriching and fulfillment journey. Now, some people will consider that, they're asking, I don't really know what feeds my soul, whatever, like what that actually means. So what kind of, you kind of want to like align it with the verbiage of what fills your cup. What brings you happiness? What brings you joy? What brings you balance? That's what I like to go into, is what brings you balance, because, this whole love and light thing is not, it's toxic in its own way. And some might argue with me on that. But, we can't always be in that state, because we're that's an avoidance standpoint as well. So it's just something, again, to consider. So now so this is another phrase that came up quite a bit in the past, I want to say 2 weeks, is the word sober, right? So we know sober means, that we're fully aware, we have, we're not influenced by some substance, or we're not influenced by something. Well, so what I got is the next 3 to 6 months is about getting sober. And so what does that mean? Like, some of you might not even, get into substance use. Some of you might not get into any of that stuff. But why use the word sober? And that's because that's another way of understanding the veils are being lifted, or understanding the spiritual awakening type of thing. It's about coming to a level of awareness and understanding of reality. And I don't know if any of you have noticed, but when you spend a lot of time watching TV, or on your screen and whatever, your brain feels a certain way. And then you got to kind of, even when you're dreaming, you wake up and you're kind of like, okay, wait, I got to come to reality. I got to come to be present, be here, be in my body, okay? So that's what's going to be occurring, and that's something to really understand, that it can be jarring sometimes when we are sobering up, because some people want to stay in, let's just use even meditation. Some people want to stay in that realm because it feels so good. And so we're not present, we're not in this human experience. And yes, it can be painful, but how are you applying what you're learning in meditation to this space? So that's something that we want to be mindful of, is that we could be running when we're sobering up. We could be utilizing these tools without actually feeling, without being present with what we're feeling, with what we are experiencing. We're trying to bulldoze through it. So that's something that you want to absolutely just observe in yourself, that within the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to be going through like this sobering up, coming out of reality TV, coming out of being on social media so much. And that's something that came through too, is to assist you in this process, is to limit the amount of time that you are on TV or that you're watching the news. Now, I know the Olympics are coming, and that's going to be exciting to watch. And so just kind of giving yourself a limitation. Some of you are already doing it. I mean, it's already a thing in the phones where they limit your time on the screen. So if you're doing that, awesome. And how are you grounding yourself? Like getting out of the thought space, getting out of the emotions, and coming back into the body and releasing all that, and giving yourself some space from all of the thinking, giving yourself some space from all the emotion, all the feeling, and just come into, what does it feel to be here? And so that's something too that we want to, really consider, is, have I just gone from, some people go from relationship to relationship to relationship without really assessing how that relationship impacted them, how it educated them. And that's kind of what we do with thought. We go to that thought, we go to that thought, we go to that thought, and we don't really sit with, how are these thoughts impacting us? So it's just, again, another food for thought type of thing. So limit your time on even the politics, limit your time even with the Olympics. It's just to allow yourself the time to adjust back into your body. And, so many people get this idea, well, I don't know how to meditate, so I can't do it. I can't meditate. Well, one, you're doing the self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say you can't do it, you're not going to be able to do it. The more you look at your language, you are going to be able to get clues into how you have either been programmed or programmed yourself into thinking. And so, you want to limit, and this was another thing that was interesting, it wasn't just about electronics, limit your connection to the web. So even, research, because a lot of this doesn't allow you to be present with yourself. And then limit others' opinions. Limit your interactions with opinions, and find something that can be joyful to talk about, so that you can get out of the opinion, so that you can start learning. Again, it's all about learning how you feel, right? About what you're hearing. Not hearing their opinions, but the emotions behind things. You've got to learn energy so that you can learn to navigate how people are being motivated to either talk to you. Like, is it coming from love? Is it coming from joy? Is it coming from something, negative? I don't know why the word is not coming to me right now. I want to speak it, but it's like at the tip of my tongue. But is it, unhealthy? Is it fearful? All of that. So even limiting yourself from facing the wounds of like, well, I'm going through abandonment issues. There's a lot of people that are going through breakups, and a few of my clients this week are going through that, and they're just struggling with understanding what occurred. And so you want to look at even taking a break from thinking about the discomforts, and just come into the body. And if you have to write it out so that you can do that, fine, but you've got to get into this moment. So I'm just coming back to where I'm at. Sorry for this. I'm like, do. So the sobering up is going to help you into learning, like I was speaking about. The more you learn how energy works, the more you can feel, depending on like, your gifts and your talents, like whether you're claircognizant, clairaudient, clairsentient, or maybe you have all the clairs or whatever. You've got to learn how energy is moving, how it's being motivated, how it's being understood, the consciousness, the energy, is it blue or is it red? Oh, I shouldn't have gone into politics. That's not what I meant. I meant cool or hot. So I didn't want anybody to think I was talking about politics. Okay. So we got to stop relying on outside opinions. We got to stop relying on how people are attaching meaning to their experience. And we've got to look at how it feels to us. And I feel like I have to keep like talking about that, making sure that gets imprinted on you, so that you understand you can learn to trust the universe. I think it's Gabrielle Bernstein who has a book called the universe has your back. I haven't read it fully. I think I've read like maybe a chapter or two, but that's how I read books. I go to where I feel pulled to, and then if I feel like I'm done with something, I'm going to put it aside and wait till I get called to it again. So I think that's the book, but you want to learn how to come into the state of trust with the universe and understand how you are moving through it. And that's the question too, is have you ever felt what peace feels inside your body? Do you recall a time when you felt at peace? Whether it was on a vacation, whether it was reading a book, when you're completely neutralized, where your energy is just calm. Have you ever felt that? That's one step that you want to look at. And so there's that. And then you want to look at, have you felt what the opposite? And most people have felt the opposite. The opposite is chaos, or the opposite is anger or frustration or whatnot. So get really comfortable with how you have noticed different energies. And it comes down to, again, who cares what others attach to things? It's about you knowing your own inner wisdom, your own inner compass. It's about being your own wayfinder, your own compass, your own way. One day you're going to become way showers, right? So that's something to consider also. But I really want you to start to, and I'm encouraging you to learn how to log your emotions, or log how you feel inside. What do you like? What do you dislike? Because some people just keep it all up here and they're not documenting it. And, at least when I was doing hypnosis regularly, that was one thing, is that people felt like they couldn't retain a lot of information. They felt like they were losing, memory. They felt like they were, a lot of my clients were older, so they felt like they were, heading in a direction that could have been like dementia or anything. What it came down to is that they were overwhelmed with information. And so can you empty out the information, put it on paper, almost map it out, so that the brain can see, okay, this is how this functions, this is how I go, and that's putting the pen to paper and dumping it out. And you can do a practice called a mind dump, where you just time yourself for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you just go to town writing. And the way I instruct my clients or my students is just saying like, okay, hey, so we're gonna pause, we're gonna do a little exercise, and I want you to write things out, even if it's like, I did this breathing practice today, and it really showed me this, but my stomach's growling. Oh my gosh, I'm craving a Taco Bell, or I'm craving a Wendy's, or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. Or you can be craving a scented leaf tea, because if you're local in Tucson, scented leaf is the best, just saying. But yeah, so you want to look at how your brain even functions too, and dump it all out, and then you can feel like, am I at peace with things, or am I still going? And if you're still going, perhaps, you know what I mean? So anyways, I hope that resonates with you. But this is a time to bear down and really get in tune with how you are being motivated, with how you are being influenced, with how you are being, what part of the consciousness, the collective consciousness that you're being influenced by. And remember, thoughts are thoughts. And I had a conversation with somebody talking about visions that they've had and how it kind of startled them. And we talked about it and we dissected it a bit. And what it came down to was, it was symbolism. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is actually going to come to the material world or to the manifested form. And so to get out of these fearful visions, these fearful thoughts, and write about it, get it out of your body, understand that not everything comes to fruition. If you have premonitions, let's talk about it. But that's what I've got to say is you really got to start to know yourself, so that you can be more empowered to make an empowered free will choice. So head to my website to look at those 2 blogs I mentioned. I really want to revisit the energy vampire one a little bit, maybe expand on it again, because I wrote that several years ago. But in any case, you can check me out also on Pinterest or on Instagram, although I will say, and I will admit, I'm not into all of the jam about staying on top of it, posting several times a day. Like, that's just not how I flow. I want to be as authentic as possible. And so when I feel inspired to put something up, that's how I flow, and I will put it up there. But I'm not going to get into all the keeping up with the Joneses type of thing. It's not my jam. So anyways, guys, have a good August, and really hone in on know thyself. Take care. Bye for now.